This message is transforming lives and organisations from the inside out, person by person and cell by living cell. Remember, you can change your DNA.
You're really passionate about this.
Yeah.
And I love it when you really come alive, especially talking about the RAS thing, all this. And I'm sort of putting it all together myself. How important do you think this message is to society? And can I say, we're not just talking about people being successful in business. How important do you think it is and could be potentially?
Well, obviously, the book is information. You know, let's call a spade a shovel. I mean, this is information. Is it valid? It's got hundreds and hundreds of references and to science and all sorts of things. But the information that we pass on to another human being, we have a great responsibility. It's a privilege to write a book, but it's also a responsibility because people read it. And when they read it, what are they going to do with it? You know?
Yeah.
You know? What's it going to do to their families, their businesses, their lives? And so the information you pass on to another human being is very important. And so I would really like to read this out tonight. It's called Rain from Nowhere, and it's by Murray Harton. It's a great Australian story. His cattle didn't get a bid. They were fairly bloody poor. What was he going to do? He couldn't feed them anymore. The dams were all but dry. Hay was $13 a bale. Last month's talk of rain was just a fairy tale. His credit had run out, no chance to pay what's owed. Bad thoughts run through his head as he drove down Gully Road. Geez, great-granddad bought this place back in 1898. Now I'm such a useless bastard. I'll have to shut the gate. I can't support my wife and kids, not like Dad and those before. Crikey, Grandma kept it going while Pop fought in the Great War. With depression now his master, he abandoned what was right. There's no place in life for failures. I'll end it all tonight. There were still some things to do. He'd have to shoot the cattle first. Of all the jobs he'd ever done, that would surely be the worst. He'd have a shower, watch the news. Then they'd all sit down for tea. He'd read his kids a bedtime story, watch some more TV. He'd kiss his wife goodnight, say he was off to shoot some roos. Then in a paddock far away, he'd blow away his blues. And he drove to the gate and stopped, as he always had, to check the roadside mailbox, and he found a letter from his dad. Now his dad was not a writer. Mum did all the cards and mail, but he knew the writing from the notebooks that he used at cattle sales. He sensed the nature of its contents and felt moisture in his eyes. Just the fact his dad had written was enough to make him cry. Son, I know it's bloody tough. It's a cruel and twisted game. This life upon the land where you're screaming out for rain. There's no candle in the darkness, not a single speck of light. But don't let that demon get you. You have to do what's right. I don't know what's in your head, but push the bad thoughts well away. See, you'll always have your family at the back end of any day. You have to talk to someone. And yes, I know I rarely did, but you have to think about Fiona and think about your kids. I'm worried about you, son. You haven't rung me for quite a while. I know the road you're on because I've walked every bloody mile. The date was December 7, back in 1983. Behind the shed, I had the shotgun rested on the brigalow tree. See, I'd borrowed way too much to buy the Johnson place. Then it didn't rain for years and we got bombarded by interest rates. The bank was at my door. I didn't think I had a choice. I began to squeeze the trigger, and that's when I heard your voice. You said, "Where are you, Daddy? It's time to play our game. I've got squatter all set up. We might get general rain." It really was that close. You're the one that stopped me, son. And you're the one that taught me there's no answer in a gun. Just remember, people love you. Good friends won't let you down. Look, you might have to swallow your pride and take that job in town. Just till things come good, son. You've always got a choice. And when you get this letter, ring me, because I'd love to hear your voice. Well, he cried and laughed and shook his head, and he put his truck in gear. He shut his eyes and hugged his dad in a vision that was so clear. He dropped the cattle at the yards and put the truck away. He filled the troughs the best he could and fed his last 10 bales of hay. Then he strode toward the homestead, shoulders back and head held high. He still knew the road was tough, but there was now purpose in his eye. He called his wife and children, who'd lived through all this pain. Hugs and more than words, he'd come back to them again. They talked of silver linings, how good times always follow bad. Then he walked towards the phone. He picked it up and rang his dad. And while the kids set up the squatter, he hugged his wife again. Then he heard a roll of thunder, and he smelt the smell of rain. It's in his DNA. That father planted that. But the son planted it in the father, and the father planted it back to the son at the time he's needed. That's why this is not about ourselves, Jamie. It's about every living human being that's in our world. What we write, what we say, what we do, it's going to have an effect on somebody's dominant neurological agenda, on their DNA. But the good news is we have the deoxyribonucleic acid, the biology that's been created intelligently, enthusiastically in every one of us to back up those thoughts and beliefs. So we need to pay special heed to what those beliefs that we decide to plant in our lives are, because they will have an impact maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, maybe even when we're gone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's so powerful, huh?
Yeah,
It's killer, that, isn't it? We had Jack Thompson read that on the morning show once. You were better.
Really?
Yeah.